I don't even hide my hatred for men anymore. See, back in the day, I used to know that I had this feeling inside of me, but I didn't know how to express it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to say anything that would get me canceled or get me having people being mad at me, or because I kind of know that like hatred for anybody is not good for your soul. So I always tried to cover it up and call it other things or like excusing and stuff like that. But baby, I ain't doing that no more. When I meet a guy, I tell him straight up from the jump, I do not like guys. But more specifically, I hate guys. I am a misandrist, and I stand 10 toes down on it, and I say it with my chest now. Like I said, I didn't always say it with my chest because I was a little bit too scared. But it then got to the point where it's just like, no, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of being canceled. I'm not scared of people being mad at me. I'm not scared of the men being in my comments. I don't care. But I do want to get one thing straight. My hatred for men is not the same type of hatred that like races have. Like the way that a white person would feel about a black person. Like if you just see a black person out just in public minding their own business and you just see a black person and you're like, ugh, like your face is turning red, your face is scrunching up because you just hate those black people, you know. I don't feel that way. I don't see a man like out in the wild and be like, oh, he's a man. You know, I don't feel like that. I do feel like that when a man tries to insert himself in my life or in my space in any type of way. That's when I get that, nigga, you know, that's when I get that rage feeling. But no, I don't just like see men out in the wild, be like, oh my God, I hate y'all so much. You know what I mean? My brain don't operate like that. But let you try to talk to me, let you try to, you know, whether it's online, in person, or whatever. If you try to talk to me, then that's when my anger fuels, you know. But outside of that, yeah, like I said, I used to be so scared to just talk about it or whatever, but I'm not no more, baby. It's like we need to keep it real. And I think if all people just said, stood 10 toes down on whatever it is, whatever they are, whether you racist, misogynist, misandrist, homophobic, whatever you are, I think we need to start saying straight up what we are and the things that we don't like to give people the opportunity. Like I'm telling you, like, sir, I don't like men. I'm a misandrist. You might want to get away from me. If I was somebody told me, if somebody was like, look, I don't like big girls, get away from me, I can't stand you fat fuckers, I'd be like, oh, well, I'll stay away from you, you know. Or if a racist person was like, yeah, I don't like you N-words, get away from here, I'll be like, thank you for letting me know. And I just feel like if everybody just said it with their chest and stop being so damn scary, then we could get further. We could get further if we stop being afraid to say what we really are. And it's just like, yeah.
I'm a proud misandrist, okay? So please understand, if I ever end up in another relationship with a man, then that means I really love and care for him deeply. Because again, I'm a misandrist. And there's no shame about it. Do I hate all men? Of course not. Are all men bad? Of course not. But how many good men do you know? Quickly. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with being a misandrist because I only hate bad men. Cheaters, liars, manipulators, abusers, rapists, sex traffickers. You know, those types. We should all hate those, right? And it's not like I want all men to die. Even though some of them should have never been born in the first place. Mother took almost 10 months to push you out just for you to come out to be an unaliver and a rapist. Wow, what a waste of her time and uterus. I'm a misandrist and I wear it proudly. And don't hate me. Hate patriarchy. Hate capitalism. Hate something that actually matters. It's like a racist person getting mad at a black person for hating a Ku Klux Klan member. Why the fuck are you mad because I hate Ku Klux Klan members? You should be mad at the Ku Klux Klan, not fucking me. Why the fuck are you mad at me for hating racism and patriarchy and capitalism and the system at hand? Misandry ain't the cause of our problems, okay? Let me be a misandrist in peace. Me being a misandrist simply means I stay away from men who are horrible, who are a danger to women, children, elderly, and all of the above. I don't go bothering. I don't go seeking. I don't go hurting. I don't deal with men malicious intent or none of that. All I'm saying is that get the fuck away from me. And that's it. And if I ever end up with a man, he better be the equivalent of the Black Messiah.
Let me tell you this. I will accept that trans misandry is not the word to describe it, because that, I think, opens up a whole world where cis men can claim that they are being systemically oppressed by women. I don't think that's helpful whatsoever. That being said, There is a unique oppression that trans men face that is being completely ignored by large groups of people. I won't use the argument and say that, oh, a lot of us look like women, so we're treated like women, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's true. I think there are a lot of passing trans men that in some ways benefit from the patriarchy. However, that is a status that can be stripped at any time. Trans men still have to see gynecologists. Trans men are at risk for getting raped and murdered. Trans men of color face oppression on multiple levels. I am a black trans man. I face medical racism, medical misogyny, and the threat that comes with being a black man in America in our supremely racist world. I don't like that he used the term misandry. However, I think tone policing a trans man who said that calling all men inherently evil both excuses the actions of cis men as a choice and lumps trans men so in with cis men that we can't find any community with queer women, with anybody. And I think there is a strong reason why, at least right now, that it is mostly white trans people having this discussion, because they are the most privileged in the queer community. I don't have the time or the energy to keep going around this same debate over whether I am oppressed or not because I'm a trans man. I am oppressed because I am black. I am oppressed in the way that black men are, and in a very similar way to black women. I am oppressed as a queer person. And of course, I'm never gonna say that women have to inherently trust men, not all men. I again don't think that's helpful whatsoever. But I feel like we are allowed to talk about our experience, how isolating it is coming out and not treated as a real man by cis men a lot of the time, and treated like cis men by the queer people that we have historically had community with. And the main issue with this debate is that none of you guys are taking race into consideration at all. Not whatsoever. Because if you did, you wouldn't be working from this mistaken belief that all trans men who are transitioning into a cis-passing white man. Y'all love holding trans men to higher standards than you hold cis men. And it's really obnoxious and it's really telling, and it kind of proves the point that it is almost impossible for trans masculine people to find community when we are consistently torn apart by this who has it worse. And I'm not going to sit here and try to tell people they're right or wrong, but what I will say is that, is this discussion really helpful right now? Is it really helpful to have on TikTok? Is it really helpful to have on Twitter? These are conversations we should be having in person with the queer people in our lives, because that's where the real community comes from. Not some social media echo chamber where anybody can say whatever they want without consequences. Touch grass. Touch grass. All of you.
Why the fuck do men always act like we talking about them specifically whenever we say we hate men or whenever we say something about men? Obviously, you abuse people then. Because most niggas, whenever I post some shit about some shit, they don't slide up being like, oh, well, or it's not even all men. Like, no fucking shit, bro. Like, are y'all actual idiots? Men are at the top of the crime rates, hate themselves, don't hold each other accountable, and don't hold themselves accountable. Run from emotions, so you demonize everybody else's, meaning you demonize human beings for being human beings. Y'all started this system up that's fucking everything up. Duh, I'm not talking about you individually, nigga. But you know what I am talking about? How you be letting your homies slide when they be raping bitches and adding to the deterioration of women's bodies, minds, and souls. I'm talking about the niggas that have no self-respect, which is a lot of y'all. Because you think that your worth is based on how many women you can get and how much money you can make. Women are the prize apparently, and money is the prize, but you have neither. And so you hate. You pour hate onto this fucking world. Like I said, it's not all men, but it's the majority of y'all. So if I were to go outside and look on my street, out of the 20 houses on my street, 18 of them probably got corrupt men inside. I speak with men in real life, real time, conversations with understanding and love. You men are hurting. You men do not feel comfortable expressing yourself. So, of course, you're pouring that shit onto everybody else. Stop acting like y'all don't know what the fuck we be talking about. Stop acting like y'all don't know the bad shit that y'all do. It's okay to admit and change. It's okay to admit and change. It's okay to admit and change. Now, the men that get triggered whenever I post shit like this, triggered to the point where you need to comment and act like the shit's not real, you are the worst of the worst. All you need to do is scroll past this shit and start changing your actions to fucking day. This shit is not about just, looking better for women, though. Stop thinking, I need to please women, so I'm gonna do better. No, bitch, you need to do better because you're a human being and you need to keep this shit going safely. The fuck? We shouldn't hate each other. We shouldn't be killing each other, raping each other, and murdering each other because a motherfucker said no. Okay? It's really simple shit. And that's why we hate men, because y'all can't understand simple shit.
I'm sorry, I genuinely think you're stupid if you're participating in this whole conversation of women cannot decenter men and hate men at the same time. Women are the only oppressed group in society that are not allowed to hate their oppressors. And I cannot understand how you can claim to have a feminist analysis of the world, but also not understand how you're perpetuating sexist stereotypes by telling women that they're not allowed to be angry. Women constantly have their anger either mocked or fetishized, mainly depending on what race you are. Anger is a productive and useful emotion. Hating men is a very natural response to realizing that you are oppressed. But you want women to be small and palatable and agreeable so bad that even when they're calling out men for oppressing them, we have to do it in a kind and palatable manner. So yeah, maybe by hating men, I'm centering them. But considering so much of how womanhood is defined has to do with men, it makes a lot of sense that that's what's happening. If I'm walking out at night, I'm thinking about men because of my safety. If I think about getting married and having children, I'm thinking about how that's going to end my life. Not even in the fact that I die, but in the fact that I'd no longer be able to self-actualize. Men are a big part of being a woman, and that's not women's fault. Like, why are we now the ones wrong?
Hey ladies, whenever men try and gaslight you telling you that misandry is a real thing, just look at it as reverse racism. Misandry is literally reverse racism, but for men. Misandry just gets on men's nerves. Misogyny actually harms women.
Unpopular opinion, but I feel like misandry should not be a worldview, and I'm going to explain. I don't really mean what you think I might mean, but I'm going to explain what I really mean. Because I kind of want to explain what's really happening when people see women hating on men, when women are first finding out about misogyny and how the world really works, and how men truly view women and act towards them and stuff like that, because it's literally way deeper than just, hating just to hate. What you're really seeing is women realizing how mistreated, disrespected, and dehumanized they have been by men. And it's kind of like how I've heard before someone say, like, the blindfold is kind of coming off, and you no longer can see men as these Prince Charmings that are coming to save you, and more of who they actually are. And that is very hurtful. And I feel like a lot of women, when they first realize this, go through that phase. And you're hurt. You're honestly hurt. Because everything that you once believed in when it comes to men, everything that you knew, you find out was a lie. It was a lie. And it was fed to you since childhood. And now you're coming to the realization, as, some people realize younger, but as an adult, that men will not save you. And 9 times out of 10, they're actually going to destroy you. And that's horrible. And honestly, I feel like that's kind of like the first wave into feminism. You realize all these things and you kind of become disheartened and a little bit bitter when you realize the ancientness of men and why they're like that. And sometimes, most times, it can come off as, misandry. But at the same time, first of all, I just want to say how, first off, I feel like misandry isn't necessarily truly real. I view misandry as people view reverse racism. It's not really real, nor is it systematic. I view misandry more as a reaction to the systematic oppression of women rather than how someone may view like actual misogyny or racism, which is systematic. Like, I truly don't believe misandry has a true structure like misogyny or racism does. It's literally just women, I feel like, expressing their grief in a form of anger and bitterness towards men when they realize, like, wow, like, men are really socialized to not even see me as human. And they're bitter about that because they realize how much they've been disrespected, mistreated, and all the other things in between because of how everyone is socialized. And that sucks. At the same time, this is also my thing. I don't think misandry, if that's what you really want to call it, should be an end point. And what I mean by that is, I feel like the anger that women feel towards men is extremely valid. I felt it too. I feel like I understand and I get it because I walked through it. But I don't think it should be the end point. I don't think it should be the end goal. I don't think it should be a worldview on men and that just be that. Because I feel like that isn't necessarily true growth through your realizations. I think staying in that place of bitterness, no matter how justifiable the feeling is, can't be good for your own personal growth. Overall, I feel like misandry is an emotional response, and I say misandry in quotes, is an emotional response to a bitter realization. But I feel like you can't truly grow from that realization in a state of survival, and I think staying in that bitterness it's going to hinder you more than it will push you forward. I don't think it should be the destination of anything or the way forward. I truly see it as a trauma response like anything else, which is valid. If I were to relate it to anything in a way that people could more understand is when, you first learn the full weight of racism for the first time, or the first time you experience racism, and you're in that phase of just like, fuck. And it's just like, what I'm really trying to say is you should obviously be able to express your grief in the way you see fit. And you should hold men accountable, but do it in a way that does not hinder your own growth. Yes, it is okay to feel bitter, but I feel like people should do something with that bitterness and not just sit in it. I think when it comes to the bitterness that women are expressing, I don't think the bitterness itself is the issue. I think it's when people get stuck in it and don't transmute it into something that can be more meaningful and more productive towards society. I think you should be able to feel it and move through it and express it, but you should also let it become something insightful. I feel like you should do something with these realizations instead of living in a loop. I feel like the bitterness is something that should push you forward instead of being just the pain itself, if that makes sense. In my personal opinion, I feel like that's just, and it comes off as emotional stagnation, and I feel like you owe yourself more than that. But yeah, because I feel like if you're going to express anger towards something, you can't lead one sentence and that be the first and last statement. At the end of the day, I feel like I come from a viewpoint of one day wanting all mankind to get along, hopefully. But also, I just don't want the message of feminism to be reduced to a single statement without nuance, an explanation, and accountability being expressed. Because then I feel like the message can get lost. And it already has, honestly, so whatever.
Misandry annoys men. Misogyny kills women. So if you're a dude and you get offended by something a misandrist said, maybe look in the mirror and see how you're upholding those double standards that get women killed.
I want to get rid of this propaganda that men are anything worth losing. I remember at one point my Instagram Explore page was just constant posts of how to keep a guy, how not to lose a man, da-da-da-da-da. Let's get something clear. A man is easy to find and even easier to let go of. You niggas come like a carton of eggs, a dozen, okay? It's easy to get a dozen. But you know what? It's only about one good egg in each dozen now. I be wishing I could lose you niggas faster. I wish I could get rid of y'all faster. Actually, is there any type of lost expert that I can talk to on this? Niggas don't be having nothing to offer but dick, weed, and vibes. And then the vibes be bad on top of that. Don't ever think that I was scared to lose a man. I'm actually fighting to lose more men out of my life every day. Trust, you are this close to getting cut every day, every day.
Today I was told that I might be a misandrist, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, let me know. I was going to Google it, but then they started telling me about it, and I was like, oh, thank you!
I really need women to understand that conversations about misandry are really just like a derailing tactic. It's not important. It's not real. It does not matter. Women saying mean things on the internet or being frustrated by being oppressed by men for hundreds and hundreds of years, that is not something that we need to focus on. When they start losing rights, when they start having their rights withheld, when they start having things overturned, that is when I will care. When there are policies limiting what they can do with their own bodies, that is when I will care. When there are hundreds and hundreds of them dying every day at the hands of women, that is when I will care. Until that happens, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I don't give one single fuck. I don't care about women saying things that you don't like online. I wish that was my problem. I wish it was just men online saying things, but in reality, it's not that. It's honor killings. It's sexual assault. It's abuse. It's harassment. It's not being able to go outside at certain times. It's not being able to do certain things alone because men. It's so much deeper than getting your feelings hurt over internet stuff. Like, you guys whine over cyberbullying. And it's not even that. It'll be like, oh, I think men need to do better. And it's like, oh my God, the violent misandry. Like, you guys are supposed to be the logical sex. If you know that you have more social power than us, you should be using that to benefit everybody. But you don't. You only think about your fucking selves. But that derailing shit, that does not work on me. I don't care about you not being able to cry. I don't care about you getting your feelings hurt because you have been coddled your entire life. We really shield them from seeing how fucking horrible they are and how they make the existence of women and girls and womanhood in general so fucking unbearable because they are so fucking awful. They make it feel like a prison. They literally make womanhood feel like a prison. So I do not care. I do not care. Like, everything about womanhood is so often tied to what pleases them, what makes them happy, but don't be too much of this or don't be too much of that. So I don't really give a fuck if they get their feelings hurt because of things online. Why would I care about that? Until they're losing their lives at like really alarming rates from women, I don't care. I don't care. That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. I want to focus on something that has actual systemic power, something that really hurts people, ends lives, ruins ruins entire bloodlines, like limits entire futures. I don't care about something that disappears as soon as you log out. As soon as you log out, that shit is gone. It's gone. Is it bad that people feel less than because they're men? Sure. But I just don't see how that's more important than, or even, it's insulting to even compare the two. It's insulting because misogyny is so systemic. It goes so much deeper than hurt feelings. It goes so much deeper than anything that they talk about when it comes to misandry. So it's just frankly insulting and irritating that they think that we should also focus on that while we also have to worry about them ending our lives and having our entire lives derailed by being with the wrong man. You guys are disgusting. You guys are disgusting. And you are incapable of having any conversation that is not about you, that is not somehow back to you and how you're a victim. How are you a victim in a world that literally caters to you at every fucking turn, in every fucking way? People are always like, what about the men? What about the men? Even though they are not the ones that need to be prioritized at every moment. The ones that are actually losing their lives, the ones that are actually unsafe in this world need to be prioritized above the ones that have all the rights and withhold all the rights. I just don't understand. It's a derailing tactic. Stop giving it attention.
Here's the truth.
There's no such thing as misandry. Supposedly, it's the hatred of men. And a result of this supposed hatred towards men by women leads to the effect of women distancing themselves from men. That is not misandry. Men are the biggest misandries because men hate themselves. And they depend on women's validation for their existence. Since their primary goal in life is to pass their genes along, they need women to do it. Therefore, they depend heavily on women's validation and women not seeing the predatory nature of men. Therefore, men can talk about how bad men are. But if women see the exact same thing, the person that you depend on your validation from holds up a mirror to your face. And what you see in that mirror, you actually hate. Therefore, you project your own self-hatred onto the women who see you.
Listen guys, hashtag I also hate my boyfriend. I also do bad things to my husband. I also charge men thousands of dollars to hold conversations with me. I'm a, you know what I mean, I'm a boss like that. But I'm gonna hold you by your copy of the Scum Manifesto when I say that unfortunately on this app, misandry is real, it is here, it is progressing ever so slowly, and it is killing the feminist movement. Hating men, disliking men as an identity group, and this one's key, or using rhetoric towards men in a way that would be inappropriate if you tried using it towards a woman are all forms of misandry and by extension hurt the feminist movement, because you have to understand that misandry is a wolf in sheep's clothing. As fun as it is to use their language, true misandrists are useless reactionaries and they fulfill the tired myth of the patriarchy, of the man-hating feminist. This way, misandry sort of sits in the shadow of the feminist movement and rots it from beneath. And it's also funny because a lot of people who claim to be feminists are using misandrist language to get clicks and views. And they're able to successfully do this because you have gaps in your feminism that are not only logical in nature but also intersectional, and so they nurse your wounds of patriarchy and they inject in you this stupid bitter hatred that is unfortunately not unlike the misogynists, okay? Obviously misandry and misogyny are not the same thing, just like anti-black and anti-white racism are not the same thing, but fundamentally they're just as pointless. The misandrist movement, or concepts of misandry, while they've existed for I'd say about 50 or 60 years in a very literal sense, also have not been espoused by many people for a good reason, because it's fucking dumb. Misandry didn't do anything useful. It didn't give us Title IX, it didn't give us the right to education, or the right to vote, or the right to own land, and besides that, it didn't do any sort of social reformation. The concept of misandry does not change the hearts and the minds of the American people, nor did it reform many of the platitudes of masculinity or femininity that are what held men and women back at the time. I think it's unarguable to say that there haven't been changes made in how men and women perceive the world. Misandry, though, it encourages us to go back to that old dumbass perception of the world. It encourages us to go back to the nature of men, the nature of women. This is how men are, this is how women are. But the thing is, we just reverse the roles. This time, men are dumb and stupid. And I would say, not only does it, again, obviously go against the whole point of feminism, saying that, you know, gender is quite arbitrary, we live in these constructs that hurt women, but I would say it is also, like, fundamentally incompatible with our modern interpretation of gender. Misandry fundamentally has to rely on some sort of inherent biological or pseudoscientific flaws assigned to men that make them unfit to be the equals of women. And if that is the case, what are the implications for the number of marginalized men or masculine people who exist outside of these concrete gender absolute constructs? I'm certainly not suggesting, for example, that the biggest form of oppression that transgender men, for example, face is misandry, but I think you can argue that while it is not necessarily systemic oppression, it is certainly a form of bigotry that doesn't help. If you want my opinion, I would firmly agree with the opinion of notable feminist Bell Hooks in her statement that misandry, frankly, is the bourgeois white woman who's jealous of the wealthy white man because of patriarchy. This incredible, all-consuming patriarchy that speaks nothing to the different intersectional struggles that many groups of marginalized men face, nor, again, does it seek to equalize, such as in the case of feminism. It just wants to reverse. It's a spiteful, jealous vitriol that seeks to, you know, just grab onto the vacuum of power instead of focus on the real problems faced by the many women across the world who have yet to reap the benefit of true feminism. Misandrists may argue that their movement is harmless, powerless even, because systemic misandry doesn't exist. Under patriarchy, they claim, it's impossible. And misandry often hides behind the very real suffering that women are faced at the hands of men, violence, abuse, and inequality. And to that I would say that feminism's job is not like to be Batman. It's not to find revenge or superiority. You know, revenge is great, it's fire in movies, but in the complicated real-life world that's filled with human potential, it's about, in my opinion, building equality, dismantling sexism in all of its forms, and addressing the systems that hurt everyone in unique ways. It is this philosophy that has made feminism so successful. And misandry, even if it's fringe or impotent, operates on these femme supremacist ideas that poison the progress of feminism. And when you try to call a spade, misandrists will retreat back into their victimhood, and they will refuse to own up to their own bigotry. That's not feminism, that's dishonest, it's dangerous, corrosive, and it's at odds with everything that the movement was built on. And so to wrap up my gap session, misandrists are not just pseudo-intellectuals, they're not just traditionalists, they're boring but also unserious reactionaries, they're somewhat pernicious radicals, and they are alive and somewhat well in the digital era. They're quietly creeping into our spaces and pushing language that jeopardizes the advancement of women as a collective, and so we should not let them do that.